The highways of America have always held secrets. Miles of asphalt stretched across forgotten plains, winding through mountains and deserts, each turn hiding a new story waiting to unfold. Truckers know this better than anyone. They're the quiet observers of the nation's pulse, eyes scanning the road and the people who cross it. But what happened one sweltering summer at Sandstone Ridge Rest Stop in Wyoming would etch itself into the annals of trucker lore, a tale passed on through radio waves, whispered in diesel-laced cafes, and honored with a reverence normally reserved for war stories. It began, as many extraordinary events do, in the most ordinary way. Just after dawn, the rest stop sat under a canopy of soft pink and orange light. The air was dry, with a faint breeze combing through the tall prairie grass. A convoy of trucks, trailers gleaming in the light, lined the gravel lot with practiced precision. Some drivers were already sipping coffee, leaning against their cabs, swapping small talk and road tips. Others slept in their bunks, lulled by the rhythmic hum of their idle rigs. Marion Cole stood beside her truck, a deep blue Freightliner Cascadia with over 700,000 miles under its belt. She ran her hands along the seams of her rig with the diligence of a surgeon. At 65, her movements were steady, practiced, and full of care. Her face bore the quiet authority of someone who'd seen more than most. Short-cropped gray hair peeked from under her cap. Her Army medic decal was polished like a badge of honor, and behind the tired lines around her eyes was a fire that hadn't dimmed with age. The other drivers called her Doc, a nod to her time in the service and her unfailing calm in the face of chaos. Her truck was loaded with temperature-sensitive medical supplies bound for a rural clinic in Cheyenne, a run she'd made countless times. Her delivery record was spotless, and her reputation even more so. As she tightened the last strap securing the trailer's load, Marion spotted a young driver a few rigs down, struggling with his coupling. He was maybe 24, his cap turned backward and his eyes locked in frustration on the stubborn connection. Marion walked over, her boots crunching on the gravel. "Need a hand, kid?" she asked. The young man looked up, face flushed. "Yeah, I can't get the damn thing to line up. Let me show you." She crouched down, guiding him through the process with patient instruction. "Angle your tractor a bit more there. Now ease it back. You'll feel it." A satisfying click echoed through the still morning air. "Take your time," she said. "We all started somewhere." Before he could thank her, a low rumble rolled in from the road. Two black and white highway patrol cruisers entered the lot, trailing a thin cloud of dust. Marion's posture shifted, subtle, alert. A soldier's instinct never really fades. "Stay cool," she said to the young man. The cruisers parked near the diner. Out stepped two officers. The taller one had a stone-carved jaw, mirrored sunglasses, and a badge that read Lieutenant Travis Holt. His partner, Dean Mercer, had a perpetual smirk and the smug gait of a man who believed himself untouchable. Mercer sauntered toward the diner while Holt made a beeline for Marion's rig. He stopped, eyeing the medic decal, then let his gaze sweep over the truck. "Nice ride," Holt said, voice too casual. "You hauling anything interesting?" Marion's face was unreadable. "Just making a delivery. Jobs can get dangerous out here," he said. "A lot of thefts, accidents. Sometimes folks need a little protection." She raised an eyebrow. "Thanks for the tip." He circled the trailer slowly, his fingers drumming against the side. "Papers in order?" he asked. "They are." "Mind showing them?" "Not at all." Marion reached for her folder, but by then a few nearby drivers had turned their heads to watch. Holt hesitated, then smiled thinly. "Maybe next time," he said, and turned away. Back at the diner, he and Mercer huddled together, whispering. Marion finished her inspection but kept them in her peripheral vision. She'd seen this play before, in war zones, in bureaucratic corners, and now on the road she called home. By noon, the whispers began flowing through CB channels. Warnings about unofficial inspections, about threats dressed as favors, and officers asking for road safety contributions with no paper trail. By sunset, more trucks had pulled in than usual. Veterans knew what it meant when rigs parked in a loose but deliberate perimeter. This wasn't fear. This was formation. That evening, the patrolmen returned, two more cruisers in tow. The four officers spread out, flashing badges, demanding papers, and peering into trucks without warrants. Some drivers cooperated out of fear. Others stalled, buying time with questions. but all of them kept their radios open. Marion sat quietly in her cab, engine humming, when Mercer and Holt returned. Mercer tapped her window. She lowered it halfway. "Evening, ma'am," he said, smiling like a crocodile. "Mind stepping out of the vehicle? Is there a problem, officer?" "Just a routine inspection. At a private rest stop?" "You'd be smart to cooperate." Her radio crackled to life. "You good, Doc?" asked Carter Jennings, a retired state trooper turned hauler parked 2 rigs down. Marion clicked her mic. "Just a routine inspection, Carter." Mercer's jaw tightened. He glanced over his shoulder. Several drivers were now outside their trucks, arms crossed. "Careful who you call friends out here," Mercer said. Marion met his eyes. "Careful who you try to scare." He stepped back. Holt scoffed. This isn't over. But the moment had shifted. Inside the diner that night, strategies replaced small talk. Phones exchanged hands. Dash cams were double-checked. Radios synchronized. This wasn't paranoia, it was logistics. The days that followed were a dance of harassment and resistance. Reports of citations for imaginary violations. Threats. Confiscations. On her 3rd trip that week, Marion was followed. 2 cruisers tailed her along Highway 285, their movements mimicking hers too closely. When she pulled into a remote gas station, they boxed her in. Holt and Mercer approached. "We need to inspect your trailer," Mercer announced. "We got an anonymous tip." "Then get a warrant," Marion replied. They threatened arrest. They radioed for backup. What they didn't expect was the convoy. One by one, rigs rolled into the lot. Carter Jennings, Lena Brooks, Tom Alvarez, and half a dozen others. They formed a circle, engines humming like sentries, dash cams blinking red. Mercer raised his voice. "This is obstruction." Marion didn't flinch. "I'm not refusing an inspection. I'm demanding you follow the law." The situation teetered on the edge. And then, a voice sliced through the standoff. "Federal Agent Rohr, FBI." A young man in plain clothes stepped forward, flashing his badge. "We've been monitoring this area for weeks," he said. "Please stand down." Holt paled. Mercer's mouth twisted in fury. But they backed off. Footage from dash cams, testimonies, audio recordings, all of it flooded into federal servers. What followed was swift. Indictments, arrests, resignations. The Sandstone Ridge Four, Holt, Mercer, and 2 other officers, were charged with conspiracy, abuse of power, and racketeering. A sweeping federal probe uncovered a network of corruption running through the sheriff's department and several state agencies. Confiscated loads had gone missing, drugs rerouted, cargo stolen. The roads had been rigged, not with potholes, but with predators wearing badges. Marion Cole didn't ask to be a symbol, but she became one. Truckers across the country rallied. Hotlines were set up. Legal funds established. Dash cams became as essential as fuel. And through every retelling, one name was spoken with a mix of awe and gratitude. Doc. Marion Cole. The woman who refused to be intimidated. The woman who stood tall while the system tried to kneel her down. Back at Sandstone Ridge, weeks later, the air had changed. It wasn't just the absence of cruisers or the new signs outlining driver rights. It was the camaraderie, the respect, the unspoken bond of people who had been tested and chose to resist. In the diner, Marion sat with her coffee. Lena Brooks slid into the booth beside her. "Never thought I'd see the day," Lena said. "Neither did I," Marion replied. "But sometimes, it just takes one of us standing up." The sun set behind them, casting gold over the rigs parked in quiet strength. The fight wasn't over, but it had begun. And this time, the road belonged to the ones who kept moving, no matter the odds.